Climbers, what if there was 13 ways that songwriters and indie artists can get paid? And what if there was a checklist that you could go back and reference? And what if it was all in a book? Well, we got the authors here today. That's what we're going to talk about on The Climb.
Let's go.
Welcome to The Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. And once you create that leverage, you're going to start creating traffic, and the traffic creates money, and you're going to have this book so you can get married. All right? That's why we do this thing. We want you to win, okay? The Climb, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. That's some wordsmithing right there, some fancy Music Row wordsmithing from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols. He's got number ones in Southern Gospel, top 10s in Australia, top 10s on Texas radio. And what you care about is he helps songwriters like you turn pro, because he reveals how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and on the regular, like every other month, he's going to give you a shot to hook up and create a relationship with a pro. Final piece of the puzzle. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S. And there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
Time to get paid.
Time to get paid. You know what?
How you getting paid? How you getting paid?
I mean, I kind of would do this for free, but I get to do it more if I get paid for it.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? This interview was great. I learned something in this interview.
Yeah, me too. I have my own little checklist of some follow-ups I need to do.
I did not know about the what did Nancy call those? The
direct licensing things?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and we're going to get into that, which is fun.
Yeah, guys, there's money out. I promise you there's money out there. If you got streams, there's money out there that you don't know about. Mm-hmm. that you need to be looking into to make sure you open up that spigot and empty that account before somebody else empties it for you.
That's right.
And takes the money. So I love that about this. So we got a longtime climber and friend of the show, Bill O'Hanlon, mm-hmm. along with Nancy Deccan, and
Leslie Bowe.
Yeah, Leslie Bowe wrote this incredible book, The Checklist, everything. And this is just nothing, all killer, no filler, just action-packed information. Boom, 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 on all the cash registers that are out there and how you can make sure that your pipeline is connected to them and that you get the money that's coming to you. So indie artists and songwriters, man, this is what you want to listen to. Before we do that, you want to take care of a little business? Or you
sure, why the heck not?
This is a long one.
It's a long one. Let's just get into it. Y'all know what to do. Join the Climb community. Share your wins. It's awesome. You know what else is awesome? This interview. Let's get into it.
That's right. And guys, the book, links to the book will be available in the show notes. So without further ado, here's Nancy Deccan, Bill O'Hanlon, and Mr. Les Bowe.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm holding up in my hands this book right here called The Songwriter's Guide to Protecting Your Songs and Collecting Your Money. And we have all three authors with us today. And so I'm excited to dive in with them. They're each songwriters with cuts to their credit. They've been plying the trade and the craft for a while now. We have Bill O'Hanlon. Just a quick little bullet points on each. Bill was on Oprah, and he is at least a 2-time climber. He was on the Oprah Winfrey Show for his book, Do One Thing Different. He writes books. He'll probably write 2 books and 3 songs during the course of this interview is how much Bill writes. So we'll go for a while.
And he'll get a sync. And he'll get a sync.
And he'll get a sync. Check. Yes. So that's Bill. We have Nancy Deccan. Rhymes with decadent. Right. but we'll find out just how. She's also a songwriter. She hosts the discoversooner.com platform dedicated to helping facilitate songwriters connecting with pros in the music business. And she has her MBA. Hey, I got my MBA too. Look at that. We're MBA bros. So, yes. And I'm not using mine. You using yours? Maybe they can get together. Mine didn't have anything to do. It needs a friend.
Yeah.
And our third guest is Les Bow. He is a singer-songwriter. As a songwriter, he received the NSAI, we are friends of NSAI here. He received their prestigious 2020 Evaluator Song of the Year award for his song "Ben," which you wrote with Jane Sachs, right?
Jane Sachs and Bobby Evans.
Oh, so it's a good one. I know that one. And and he also received, he's getting cuts. He's had cuts with the Darren Morse Band, a top 20 in Texas called I Can Drink This Beer. Also charted on the Texas country music chart. So, man, all these authors are writers. They're in there doing it. So they live this stuff. So thank y'all. Bill, Nancy, Les, welcome to the climb.
Welcome to the climb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying yes, bro. Yeah, have you noticed a trend that when Bill comes to the climb, he brings a crowd?
Yes.
Well, there's a reason for that.
I like that. When Bill comes to a Climb Rider night takeover, he brings a crowd.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Bill. It's just he's the Pied Piper of whatever circle he's in at the moment.
Well,
Yes,
because
yeah.
it takes a village to raise a song. That's what
There we go.
you know. It takes coaches like you and Brent, and it takes people like the NSAI to teach us about stuff and Songwriting Pro and the Climb. And we decided, and most people in Nashville co-write. We decided to co-write this book. This is the book that I wanted when I got off the bus in Nashville. We all pick it up a little, you got to join a PRO. Okay, what's a PRO? And, no, you need mechanical. What are mechanical? What is performance royalties? What's the MLC? All this stuff we sort of pick up by osmosis, hanging around other writers, hanging around with publishers. But those of us who are independent writers need some guidelines. And I wish someone had just handed me this slim volume. Our book is pretty slim. And all I needed to know, the basics, the essentials that I needed to know. And the three of us are independent songwriters, and Nancy's also a publisher. And we decided we need this book, so let's write it for us and for everybody else.
That's what they say. Write the song that you want to hear. Write the book that you want to read. So
That's right.
yeah, man, I've just started diving into this, and so I was fortunate enough to bump into Les and Bill at a Music Bro event, and so of course Bill carries I think it was Bill or Leslie maybe had it. I don't remember who had it, but somebody handed me one, and I'm very thankful you did. So I've started diving into it, and we're looking at what do we want to cover on today's episode, and because it's a thin book, but it's packed. It's all lean
All
muscle,
killer, no
fat.
filler.
All killer, no filler. And I've seriously got like page 7. I'm like, all right, we got enough for a show. Why don't we just take page 7 and 8? And we'll do a show on that. And we'll try to keep it to under an hour.
That was the whole idea, was you could read chapter 1, the big overview, and you would understand everything we are about to tell you. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's a chart that's going to explain it all. And boom. So it was like...
There's pictures for Johnny. I mean, Brent, we knew would read it, but we put pictures in there for Johnny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's a famous quote in the financial industry from a tax judge named Learned Hand back in the early 1900s that said there are 2 tax systems in America, one for the informed and one for the uninformed, and both are legal. And that is certainly the case when it comes to the business end of songwriting and, getting your stuff set up. It's like you can be informed or you can be uninformed, and somebody's going to get the money, and they're always going to be working to get it. And so I think with this book makes so much sense with the with the middle class of artists that are figuring out how to make a living
Mhm.
right now, and that pie grows so far like 20% a year, which is astonishing.
Mhm.
Okay, because it's all decentralized, right? We don't need we can make our own records,
Mhm.
and we don't need anybody's permission to reach the audience. You just need to hustle, and you need to work, and you need to do stuff that's uncomfortable, like figure out how to work social media and stop
Mhm.
saying I don't know how to do that social media thing. And then you got to make sure that you're getting your money. And I
Yeah.
think that well, I think this is a big deal because there's so many people that, I mean, if you're like me, you know, Johnny, let's talk about accounting. Just give me the gun and I'll just I I I
Yeah.
don't wanna freaking deal with it, man.
Right.
My dad's my accountant. He's up under the hood like you can't believe. Sometimes we have conversations like right out of The Wolf of Wall Street. Like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I don't like,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do it. I can't do it. So it's not an excuse. You got to find you got to learn how to do it. Oprah said, write your own checks, right? Ask her how she found that out.
Mhm.
Even if you have somebody doing it for you, you've got to inspect what you expect, and you've got to be a student of the
Mm.
game on that. And
And
there's a reason that there's, depending on who you talk to, between 1.5 and $3 billion sitting in black box accounts. And I think that a lot of that has to do with people just would take the route that I would take. Let's just go make it happen, and then we'll figure out how to get collect later.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You get busy making it happen, and you forget to collect. So
Mhm.
part of that in there. I love that part of this. So
Well,
So
especially as an indie artist or as an indie writer, that's what you're faced with.
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Trying to understand, navigate it. As a independent artist myself, you're out there making records and you're releasing them, and then it's an afterthought usually how to collect. It's like
Mhm.
you put the music out there and you release it, and then you're like, oh wait a minute, am I supposed to get paid for this?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
by the way, they know that. I mean, you have to understand too when it comes to the streaming services. I mean,
Mhm.
it,
Mm.
these are tech companies, not music business people that it would say, well, how do we set this up? And where did they go? Like right to the wolves, right to the PROs. Like, here's what you do. You got to have another pool of money for the real people. And over here, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It seems so simple to me, but it's not. It's incredibly sophisticated. And what turned me onto this whole thing was seeing a rant from the guy. I can't remember his name. It escapes me right now, but the guy that started TuneCore,
Mhm.
and he's since sold it. And he was at he's an advocate for the indie artist. And he's like, this is so stupid how difficult they make it to collect your money, but
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. But you can choose to be a victim or not be a victim, and education is the key. So thank you for writing this book. And I know there's more to it than just that, but
Mhm.
um, I see y'all doing it, Bill. I couldn't be any more prouder of you. And I don't mean to sound condescending when I say that. It's just like, dude, you just came in and decided to you came to Nashville to chew bubble gum and write songs and make money, and he's all out of bubble gum. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you've done so much in a short amount of time.
Right.
And every time I turn around, like I think you might have the most with the shout outs and the wins in the climb community. You might be the guy with the most, oh, got another sync. Well, look at, hey, what time is it? Oh, Bill's making money right now with his song. So I love that you guys, boiled this down into a book. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. We should get into the 13 ways
I
that you
know.
can make money
That's right.
as an indie writer because as you say, Johnny, and Brent and Nancy are MBAs, but most of us, I was a therapist before I became a songwriter, and therapists are like same with you, like you, Johnny. It's like, I don't know about business, I don't know about accounting, I don't know about the, marketing. That stuff freaks me out. You don't need to know everything about it. You just need to know the basics, and that's what we decided to boil it down to. 13 ways that you could be making money as an indie songwriter if you don't have a publisher or a label advocating for you. And most people these days, as we hear you talk about on the climb all the time, are indie label. They've got their own label. They're their
Mhm.
own manager. They're their, maybe they have a team working with them, but and songwriters are the same way. There used to be thousands and thousands of publishing deals. Now there's hundreds
Yeah.
in Nashville. And so most of us are indie. Let's just learn a little bit, the bare minimums of what we need to know to make sure we're squeezing all that juice out of the lemon.
Mhm.
That's our song that we spend so much time and heart and soul trying to create, get recorded well, and put out in the world. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
right.
we're here just to give you the cliff notes here really
And
quickly.
before we get started, I just want to say this, that there is page 9. And on
Mhm.
page 9 is a chart, and it has all of these royalties listed. It
Mhm.
has a short description of what that royalty is. It has whether this is for the composition or for the recording, and where to go get it, right?
Mhm.
Where to go get it. And each one of these
Love it.
chapters was so. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, and your head is going to be spinning here when we
Mhm.
go through these 13 royalties, but it's right there, and where to go get it's the important information. So in each
That's
chapter
right.
will help you. So
Yeah,
And
so
you can go right back to it. You go right
yeah,
that's
and
back
right.
to
each chapter
in
has a
chapter.
checklist.
In each chapter, there's a nice little Johnny friendly diagram that you can go into the details of it if you want. So you
And
don't
we
have to read.
also have and and we also have a checklist, so you can go down, write down the row
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get started. It's an extra tool as a guide.
Yeah,
At the
it's
end of
really
every chapter, there's a checklist. Do
yeah, it
it.
feels like a guidebook and a to-do list and walk you through these things of
Yeah,
how so we're gonna, like,
yeah,
overview the types of royalty or the
right.
types of income, and then there's, like, a chapter on each one and go, "Okay, to get this, do this. Da, 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 da."
Right.
So,
Mhm.
exactly.
it dives
Let's
into it,
let's start,
in
let's start
spectacular
with
fashion.
performance. Let's start
So,
with performance. That's the first
Bill's
one.
like, "I got stuff to do. I got 85 songs to write today. Let's get to it."
That's
So,
right.
yeah, number 1,
I actually
I
do
agree
have a
with you.
couple of
I
writing
like the
It's
spirit.
like chop chop, cowboy. Time is money.
That's
He's
right.
already he's
So
already
performance.
written your songs.
Sometimes I write with new people because we co-write, as you talk about a lot on the climb. That's a thing I learned when I came to Nashville. It's like co-write. You got several people that are into the song that are maybe pitching it out there. And sometimes I write with someone and I say, okay, we've got a Google Doc for our lyrics. Will you put your PRO information at the bottom of this doc? And some people, I've had it happen probably 10 times in the last 2 years. What's a PRO? And I'm like, oh, okay, we got to start on the basics here.
Yeah.
The PRO, yeah, really, no kidding, no kidding. The PRO stands for Performing Rights or Organization, and they're all over the world.
Mhm.
And the U.S. Has three main ones. There's a fourth one that Irving Azoff started, but we won't get into that because that's only for the Eagles, and people are making billions of dollars a year. It's private by invitation. As CSAC, it's a little by invitation as well, although you can usually slide in if you know somebody. Um, but the main ones that most of us, those independent songwriters, are going to use are BMI and ASCAP, and most people have heard of those, but
Mhm.
they're free to join. And people are like, oh, I don't, I'm not making any money from music yet. Go ahead and join one. It used to be back in the day, you could go visit them and find out if there was somebody who was really into your music. That's kind of old times now. So your performance royalties are when your song gets performed anywhere. If you've written that song and you own a piece of that song, you could, if it is performed anywhere, get some money in from that. And even if you don't have it on, even if you don't get it recorded by a really big, artist, you could go out and play it in a bar in Nashville at a songwriters round, and there's a little money waiting for you there.
Mhm.
Most songwriters I know do not collect their performance royalties except if somebody puts out their song as and maybe they'll do it then and maybe they won't. But
Right.
performance means anytime it's performed anywhere in the world.
Publicly.
It's whether it's on movies, TV, that sync stuff, whether it's played in bars or on radio or on social media, or whether it's on those digital streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple and Amazon, things like that, or whether it's some non-interactive streaming like Pandora Radio and things like that. And if it's synced through music supervisors and sync agents, which Johnny was talking about, TV, movies, commercials, video games, that kind of stuff. And there's sometimes direct licensing for things like Peloton because they have music when you're out there
Mhm.
doing your workout, Snapchat, things like that. Sometimes there's direct licensing. Most of that comes in through those.
And tours too. I mean, not just bars, but like arenas
Yeah, when
Yeah.
and
someone's playing
theaters.
it on a stage somewhere, even if you're not playing it, if somebody else is playing it, there's performance royalties that come from your song that's supposed to go into your account somewhere. Most of those come in through the PROs, and again,
Mhm.
there are international PROs, PRS in England and SOCAN in Canada and AMRA in Australia, things like that. So, but in the US, which is mainly our focus for this book because it gets complicated all over the world,
Mhm.
PROs that most of us are going to be is ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, or GMR. And again, most of us are ASCAP and BMI. That money should come into you as a songwriter if you've checked all the boxes and gone through the checklist to register your songs and collect all that money.
That's
The
right.
PRO, most of it, you have to do a little of it yourself. The ones that don't come in directly through the PROs.
Yeah, they
And
have to know the song exists. If you don't register it, they don't know it
That
exists.
is the key.
yes,
That is the key.
Yeah, you got to register your song. And if you play live, you have to register your set list.
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And surprise, surprise to all of us,
Yes.
if one of your co-writer plays that song
Mhm.
out, you can also register. You can also put that
Mhm.
instance of that public performance there. So say, go ahead, Bill. Tell me the story about the big band. When it-
Wow. I was on Facebook one time and it was on some songwriter thing and somebody said, "Oh, hey, do you register BMI Live?" And ASCAP has ASCAP on stage, I think it's called. I'm a BMI guy, and they said most people said no, and he said, "Well, I play rounds 3 or 4 times a week here in Nashville, and I pay a good portion of my rent payment through my BMI Live royalties." I
Mhm.
was like, "What? I haven't been registering my BMI Live."
Yeah.
Now, I
Right.
wasn't paying so much, but now when I come to Nashville, I play 3 or 4 times, and I play 3 or 4 of my songs, sometimes 5 if I'm a feature, and I can register those songs and make a little money from my music, even if I
Mhm.
haven't had a lot of success getting my songs recorded or I'm not an artist and I don't put out stuff. So for me, that was a big wake up call, like you said, Johnny. If you don't educate yourself about this stuff, you're just leaving money on the table, and someone's got that money. It's in an escrow
Yeah.
account. They're earning interest from it, and
Well,
so
let's talk about that for a second. Just if in case you're not aware of what Bill's talking about, you might be thinking, so how does this make sense? I'm just going to register that I sang this
Mhm.
song and they're going to send me a check. Well, where does the money come from? Well, every time you walk into a club that has live music, every time that you walk into a venue that's playing music, if they've got
Mhm.
music going over the speaker system in a fine dining restaurant, if they have a jukebox, if they've got, there is a sticker on the window. And
Mhm.
let me tell you something, these PROs, it's like, it's a shakedown, man. They send
it's
big guys in
legal. We will
leather
come
jackets.
visit you if you haven't
Yeah,
paid.
and you gotta pay, because if you're playing live music at the event, if you're playing recorded music from a jukebox, if you're playing recorded music over the speaker system, you have to pay a blanket fee to so they're collecting money all the time.
Mhm.
Some of that money is yours, and it's not yours unless you make them aware that it's yours. And you know what? They don't advertise that. You might think, well, that
Mhm.
sounds too good to be true. Well, why would they advertise that? I mean, it's like there's the other end of this is like you put one guy in charge of like a big pool of money. I don't care who you are. There's going to be corruption. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you get to fight this though by doing exactly what Bill's talking about. So I want you to know where the money comes from, and the money's there, and that's like that's literal. That's real. It's what he just said is real. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that, Johnny. That's really the truth. That's where it comes from.
That
So you
is,
got to collect your own, right?
that's
that's
Then
right.
right.
there's mechanicals. Nancy, tell us about mechanicals.
All
Yes.
righty. So, so when you write a song, and maybe and you put that song out, or an artist puts that song out, there's another royalty called a mechanical royalty. Like in the olden days, it came from player piano rolls, but that's just not the way it happens anymore. That's where
Mhm.
that name came from. But there is a royalty that comes to the songwriters and publishers of the song. This royalty is thankfully now, because of the MMA and the legal the laws that have changed, it is this year it's 12.4 cents per download or hard copy of some kind, be it vinyl or CD.
Mhm.
And also, there is a mechanical royalty on digital distribution. Every time there's a your song is played on Spotify, you get a little tiny mechanical royalty on Spotify and all those digital places too. So, uh, so part of the mechanical royalty comes from direct licensing between yourself, the writer of the song,
Mhm.
and the artist who puts the song out, and it's called a mechanical license,
Yeah.
right? And
Imagine
you
that.
imagine, and you as the writer of the song must issue that to the artist.
Mhm.
uh, and part of that, you don't have to issue any license at all. The stuff that comes from Spotify, the MLC issues the license to the Spotify's of the world and allows them to play your song. But then you have to go sign up to the MLC, and you don't have to put all of your songs in the MLC. You just have to put your songs that are released, through digital distribution, uh, on the MLC. So, like how many cuts do you have a month?
Mhm.
Probably, not that many, right? But
Mhm.
so whenever you get a cut, then it's time for you to go sign up, make sure that song is registered with your PRO.
Mhm.
And then the next thing you want to do is to go get your song over there on the MLC. And money and what's also interesting about this, that this sounds so nice and perfect, but there's this imperfect part of this.
Yes.
The imperfect part. This is great. Okay. Some of your mechanical royalties don't come to you through the MLC. Some of your mechanical royalties flow from the digital music distributor, like the DistroKid, and they
Mhm.
send it over to the artist. So the artist is making your mechanical royalty. um, so this is what really surprised me when I was going through this thing, is that I called the MLC. I was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
MLC," and they're so good. These are
Yeah.
such phenomenal people, right? I says, "Well, okay, so let me get this straight. My music that like when somebody downloads my song on Amazon or Apple, the
Mhm.
old Apple iTunes, then my mechanical royalty of 12.4 cents, if I wrote it all by myself, okay, that 12.4 cents goes through the MLC, and they go, no, no,
Yeah.
no, Amazon and Apple are pass through. And I'm like, what? Well, they just pass the money through to the music distributor. So
Mhm.
the money through the music distributor goes to the artist. So this is why we as songwriters this is another reason why we issue a mechanical license to the
Mhm.
artist. I know this sounds like a tangled pair of headphones at the bottom of your
Mhm.
backpack, but
Yeah.
this is how we untangle it in this book. This is, I mean, we songwriters we ask these artists to pay us, and a lot of times we
Mhm.
ask them to prepay us our mechanicals, and they'll go, "Well, why should I do this? Because maybe I'm going to make some downloads, and maybe I'm not."
Yeah,
Well,
they're
no,
becoming like indie artists, smaller artists.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're on record label
Mhm.
has all the accounting set up and they're going to pay your mechanical
Yeah.
license, right, Brent? But we indie artists, me in indie artists like Leslie, I mean, this is accounting. All of a sudden now we're in accounting.
Mhm.
Every month we're getting money from Spotify and we have to take our 12.4 cents out of that 99 cents
Yeah.
they paid us or whatever and send it to the co-writers.
Mhm.
And that is not fun.
No.
So these mechanical licenses, and you can work out with people, your co-writers or whoever licensed your song, you have to kind of work it out how you're going to get your royalties out of that mechanical
And
royalty.
that's not. You may feel like that's going to be an uncomfortable conversation,
Mhm.
Oh, it's
um,
totally uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's
but
certainly comfortable.
but you know what? Like it's no different than if you're working behind the counter at friggin' McDonald's. You know they got to give you the money before they can get the
Yeah.
sandwich. You know,
Totally
so
get.
normally, I mean, right now life is a little easier. To be honest with you, in terms of the comfortableness of the conversation with streaming, because it's streaming, so it's kind of on demand. But prior to streaming, when you would license, if you had an outside cut or if you had a co-writer on a song as an artist, when we were handling our artists, they're going to go print up. What are they going to do? They're going to sell CDs and they're
Mhm.
going to print up 1,000 CDs. Well, you would have to prepay that. You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna shell out. Usually, it's going to be like 1,000 CDs, and they're going to demand that however many, whatever's due on that, you pay for 1,000 of it up front, and then you've got to monitor it from there. So guess what?
Mhm.
It's a lot less overhead out the gate right now than it used to be. Okay. So don't feel uncomfortable about having that. Don't be afraid to remind them of that. And if they're a professional artist, they're going to get that and they're going
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, man. Okay. Like like it's standard business. It's like nobody feels uncomfortable or wants to have a debate with you over the cost of a freaking Big Mac. If you're standing behind the counter, it's not a negotiation. It's
Yeah.
just
Or
what's
when
due.
you or when that artist decides to issue some vinyl or CDs,
Mhm.
they have to pay that CD company or that vinyl company for that product up front. I
Right.
just want to clarify a couple things because we can get caught up in jargon here. The MLC stands for the Mechanical Licensing Collective, which is only in the United States. There are other organizations around the world that collect that money for us, and they do collect most of it for us. But as Nancy said, you have to go register it. You have to put it in the MLC.
Mhm.
It's free to join, it's free to sign up,
Yeah.
but you have to go put it in. And here's the thing what you were saying earlier, Johnny, there's $500 million that's unclaimed. You call it black box money. They go, we don't know whose money this is because those songwriters haven't stepped forward to
Mhm.
get it yet.
It's more than that, Bill. Yeah.
There is money waiting for you right now. If
Yeah.
your song has been recorded and released anywhere, there's probably money waiting for you. And you're sitting at home going, how come I can't make any money with my music? And there's money sitting there waiting for you to take it out. The other thing is, I just got 2 cuts, and you have the right to not let anyone cut your music the first time.
Mhm.
The first time you have to give permission, you as a publisher of your own music. If you don't have a publisher, the publisher has that right if you're signed to a publisher. But you have to give permission. And before I let people record my songs, I issue a little contract, which we have an example of in our book. And I asked for the money up front, and I was a little uncomfortable. Now I'm totally comfortable. I'm like, if you don't want to pay the money, don't record it. It's okay with me.
Yeah.
I'm getting a fair amount of cuts these days. And I just had 2 cuts. A guy, indie Texas artist, wants to record 2 of my songs. And I said, send me $90 if you're just doing streaming. Send me $120 if you're issuing vinyl or CDs. And he said, I think I'm going to do a CD and vinyl. I will pay it. And my co-writers and I just got money in. It's the first money my co-writers have ever gotten in for a song.
Nice. Less.
Ed
Um,
Les.
just to make sure that we clarify here, the Mechanical Licensing Collective is issuing a mechanical license for streaming. So so what you're talking about, so what Bill is talking about is if you're an independent artist and you're going to issue your own mechanical license to an artist, which is two different things here,
Yeah.
That's really
right?
true.
So we just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we clarify, and
And
it's usually 1,000. I don't know. Typically, it's been 1,000,
Hmm.
but
Unit.
I've actually
units.
had some publishers, independent publishers, charge me for 2,500
Right.
because of the
Very
streaming
far. Totally.
aspect.
Yeah.
A lot of them are saying, "Well, we're not going to collect as much from the streaming
Hmm.
royalties, but we're going to up it on the front end
Mhm.
for the mechanical license."
And that's up to them, but on a case by case basis. It's like a
Yes.
company policy. You know, listen, this is an oversimplification in some ways, and in some ways, it's not.
Mhm.
Everybody listening to our voice right now has had a job at one point or another, right? Where you
Yeah.
go to work, you put in your hours, and then you get paid. But that company won't pay you unless you fill out a W 9 form where you give your
Hmm.
social security number. Okay. And you tell them, in some cases, by the way, you might not get a check. Maybe they are going to direct deposit it into your bank account, which,
Hmm.
oh my God, is more clerical work because then you have to go and find out what your bank account number is
Right.
and your routing number so that they can make that transaction happen. If you don't do that, you don't get paid.
Yes, that's
Right.
very true.
So,
Right.
how long would you go to work
And I
for
get-
wherever you're working right now if they weren't paying you? You
Hmm.
know, and so that when I get into conversations with people, especially indie artists, always indie artists, about complaining about how little everybody pays, I'm like, is your admin set up?
Hmm.
Is it set up because
Mm.
it's kind of like you don't get to complain about who's president if you're not going to vote. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
It's true.
stop it. Go get everything set up and then tell me.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
So
You're such a father. You're gonna make us all do the right things,
that's right.
I love that. Yeah, it's great.
It's true
All right.
though.
What's next?
Moving on to number, yeah, we're only at number 3, but we'll start with the big ones. Master royalties. Who wants to take that one?
Yeah.
Les, do you want to take that one,
Yes.
maybe, or?
Let me take the next two because they are directly related. So when you get into the master royalties, this is where you're talking about the recording owner
Hmm.
of that fixed sound product.
Hmm.
Um, and so what you've been talking about earlier, yeah, I mean, it deals with the composition, the publishing side of it. This is where you get into where typically a record label is going to be the one that owns it.
Hmm.
It's whoever pays for the recording of it owns it.
Hmm.
Um, and that's just sort of understood. And, sometimes you may need to clarify, if you're an artist and you want to, claim ownership of that master, you definitely want to make sure that you clarify that upfront. But this has to do with owning that master, and it gets collected by your distributor. So when you're talking about downloads of it, you're talking about DistroKid or the TuneCore. Again, they're going to take care of that payment. Then we, switch over into the digital performance, royalties, and this has to do with, again, with the sound recording of it and the ownership. But they collect the non-interactive streaming for platforms on internet radio, Pandora, cable, satellite, and those are going to be paid through Sound Exchange.
Hmm.
And Sound Exchange it's designated by the U.S. Library of Congress, so it's a nonprofit. But how they will pay is they'll pay 45% of the royalties are going to be paid to the feature artist, to the non featured artists. So that would be like, say, like a background singer or like a studio musician. Um, and then the other 50 are going to be paid to the rights owner of the sound recording. Typically, if you're talking about a major label, most likely they're going to make you sign over those rights,
Mm-hmm.
usually through a work for hire, or it's going to be a release so that they collect 100%. But in the case of an indie label, um, which could, often be the actual writer, like me, I've released records and
Mm-hmm.
I'm the owner of the sound recording. I'm also one of the writers. But so, what they'll do is you have to register with Sound Exchange. And it's important that if you're the rights owner, you have to register as a rights owner and also as a featured artist. It's important. And it with Sound Exchange, it's that's a part of the process. But you want to make sure that if you are the owner of that sound recording, that you're going to make sure that you do register,
Mm-hmm.
and that's through Sound Exchange. So I would say everybody, if you're an artist and you need to register with Sound Exchange, because there's going to be 45% of those royalties out there that they will collect for you, unless you've released your rights. But in an indie situation, that's not usually the case. So you want
And
to make sure.
clarify specifically what Sound Exchange, where Sound Exchange collects from.
Well, yeah. So it's actually going to come from, from internet radio, Pandora, cable, satellite radio. They're gonna.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Some,
Different than streaming, right? Like
yeah,
that's the
not like Spotify where you can have your friends go and listen more and more, and
right.
Mm-hmm.
that's interactive streaming. That's the non-interactive streaming where a digital radio station is picking your song out of there
Mm-hmm.
and playing it someplace where you have no control.
Right. Yeah.
Right, where it's a playlist kind of thing. So,
Yes.
sound recordings, guys, this is huge too, okay? There is when we had that episode about the the new Spotify rules on payouts,
Oh
and
my. Yeah.
one of the rules had to do was focusing basically on how much of that general pie that companies who had a lot of traffic were getting that were sound recordings,
Mm-hmm.
but not music. Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically sleep sounds, right?
Yeah.
It's white noise or pink noise or green noise. And I mean, I have that every night. I sleep every night. There's hours and hours and hours. And every 30 seconds, these guys are racking up a spin, and they
Mm-hmm.
change the rules for them on that. Sound recordings are it's never been more true that whoever owns the traffic rules the road, right? You're talking the companies that make the sleep noise because they own the sound recordings to that, and they figured out a way to make a lot of traffic on the product that they put out. You're talking 50, 60, $70 million companies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We work with a Spotify promotion company that has invested millions of dollars in playlists. They own Spotify playlists because those playlists have traffic. So they own traffic. And one of the ways they monetize those playlists is they hire guys like track guys
Mm-hmm.
to create cover songs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they put them in those playlists. So they put them inside the traffic stream and they generate traffic. And so for every million streams that they get, it's $3,200 on the master recording, So,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting millions and millions and millions every single month because they own all this traffic. So when when I say whoever owns the traffic rules the road and they need to focus on traffic, this is one of the ways that while you're trying to break through as an artist with your own songs, you can do some crazy marketing stuff that I don't know. The Beatles did, and the Rolling Stones did, and Led Zeppelin did by putting out cover songs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you do the cover song, you're not going to get a royalty on the composition, but you do get the royalty on the master, because you own
Mhm.
the master recording for that. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to know too that if you have any kind of acumen and all with terrestrial radio and how that pays, that is a royalty that is absent from American
Mhm.
terrestrial radio by way of a backdoor deal back in the 30s with Congress. Okay. So on the planet Earth, the only radio stations that don't pay a master recording license are American terrestrial radio stations. And um, American artists don't get that in England just because England's like, screw you. If you're not going to pay our artists, we're not going to pay yours. You know what
Right,
I
yeah.
mean? But you know the digital streaming platforms all have to pay for that master license. So you know when you think about a hit song from an artist that did a huge cover song, you know, Van Halen, "You Really Got Me," right?
Mhm.
Massive, huge hit. Man, they didn't make any money on that from the radio.
Right.
They made a lot of money on it from live show tickets and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but from those performances on the radio, you know, the Davies brothers got paid because they wrote the song, but the
Mhm.
master recording didn't make any money. So,
Yeah.
it's important that you understand that cash register
Yeah.
and where
Or
that's
lack
coming from.
thereof.
That's a
Yeah.
big one.
And just one thing to add, further, because it's, this book is written for the songwriter, and from our perspective, from as an indie, an unpublished writer, an indie songwriter, if you're working with an artist that's going to release it, if they pay for the recording and they put it out, then they own the master, right?
Mhm.
So some of the alternative strategies as a songwriter is to talk to the artist to say, "Hey, can I pitch in on
Mhm.
that song that you're going to release?" Because that way you can also claim ownership or part ownership of that master. So that's another strategy. As we work with independent artists that are releasing stuff, that's another way that as a writer, if you want to tap into the ownership of the master, because there's that other separate royalty stream that you
Mhm.
can tap into if you work it out with them and say, "Hey, let's share in the cost of the recording and the release, and then you also share in the ownership of the master
I do
and the
I do
royalty."
that all the
Yeah.
I do
The
that all
money
the
is in the
time.
master. The money is not
I
in the composition as much unless it goes really big, but the money
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
definitely
get
much
more
better.
money per yeah, per
Yeah.
stream from the master, and I buy into it all the time, partly because I'm also pitching to sync, which we'll get to in a few minutes, but I wanna own part of that master because I wanna be able to pitch to sync and earn some of that upfront money from sync, and that's in the recording, that sound recording.
Very
So,
cool. Which
So now we're
again, yeah,
royalties from internet.
yes,
Bill,
and
Really?
One more thing on masters, just so you guys understand how
yeah,
big this is. I mean, it's like you're at a smaller level right now, but it's still the most amount of money that you're going to make, you know, with that. But you know, Motley Crue today, it doesn't exist for the last 25 years. They don't have the money to do what they're doing right now if they didn't own their masters, right?
Mhm.
And you've seen all the news with Taylor Swift and everything like that, making that play where she couldn't get her masters, so she re-recorded them.
Mhm.
She made new masters of her old songs and told all her fans, "Don't listen to that crap. Listen to this over here." And the
Love her.
repercussions of that are huge. So it's becoming the norm now. I haven't gone into the details on the Miranda Lambert new Miranda Lambert deal yet, but
Mhm.
I'll bet you a month's pay she owns her masters.
Yeah, maybe so.
or she'll get them back pretty quickly if she doesn't own them right away. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
good
That's
leverage.
what Prince protested against. He didn't own his masters, and he called himself a slave because
Mhm.
that term
Yeah,
I
and you know what? And you guys, you've got all this big stuff happening up here, and if you haven't figured out how to get paid for your masters, you know, in your little sandbox, shame on you.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, shame on you.
there's
Like,
money
you
there.
know,
There's money there.
yeah, there's money there.
And so far, all we've done is said, join a PRO, register your song in that PRO, register with Mechanical Licensing Collective, register with Sound Exchange, and make sure you issue a mechanical license if somebody wants to record your song. Maybe buy into the master. That's always a good if you're not
Mhm.
recording it. The next royalty is royalties for internet usage, and that was a small thing for a while, and now it's starting to be bigger. It's when your composition is used in posts and reels and videos, platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and these royalties come to you through your PRO. So if you registered that song, you'll get them if everything is connected, if all the dots are connected
And
on the
how does your song get onto social media? A
Mhm.
lot of this has to do with what music distributor you're using, okay, or the artist is using. Like on DistroKid, they ask you, this is like a little checkbox. Do you want your song to go onto onto Facebook, Instagram? And you
Hmm.
go, yes, yes, you check that box. And then the next time, as soon as they put the song out, but you got to have that artist who does that. You as a
Mhm.
songwriter can't do that. It's that master owner who makes that decision, so to speak. So, and these various music distributors have different kind of package deals when, some have this, and some have TikTok, some don't, right? So it's at the artist level where and the music distributing. Okay, but anyway, but like Nuss, he's in charge of his own. He can check the boxes, and this is what happens. Like I
Mhm.
have um, uh, uh, a band, the Crazy Cookie Crew, with my grandkids, right?
Mhm.
And we check the boxes, and as soon as that song is out there, we can go use that our own song in a reel on Instagram, on Facebook, any place that we want to go, in TikTok, it's there, right? And that is why, and that's what we want to do. We want to use our own music because we are making, a little royalty, a performance royalty every time our song gets played in that, from whatever we distributed. You know what I'm saying here.
Mhm.
Every time we use it, but it's not the same as you playing in your bedroom and singing into the microphone.
Yeah.
That's not what gets paid for. It's when you use your sound, the sound recording of your song is used in a reel, and that's what you get paid for through your PRO. So that's why you go and look at your statement and see if you've got anything coming through
Mhm.
Facebook or Instagram or any of those, Meta or whatever. So you see, so that's how we get paid for a little bit of performance royalties on our songs playing on Instagram.
Very cool.
Hey, and one more thing, because that money goes through PROs. We failed to mention too that your PRO, once you sign up for the PRO, is going to automatically uh, split up the money that comes in from your song into two buckets. One
Mhm.
is for the songwriters and one is for the publishers. Now, you may
Mhm.
think to yourself, well, I don't have a publishing deal, so I don't need to worry about that. Yes, you do, because you are de facto the publisher, which means you
Mhm.
need to set up a publishing company at your PRO as well, which is
Yeah.
simple as giving it a name, right? And then it gets assigned a number for your
Mhm.
publishing company, and you get assigned a number as a writer. And so if you don't have that set up at your PRO, but you have set yourself up at
Mhm.
a PRO,
Mhm.
you're only getting half the money.
Yeah.
So
It
make
it
Well,
sure
it
that
goes into it in
that's
the
not
book
true on
too.
BMI.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not true on BMI, but it's
Yeah,
true on
BMI, you get paid for your
and
publishing.
nationally, it's not always true, but I think it's always a good idea if you're serious about your songwriting. We all of us on this call have set up our own publishing company. It's not that hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just set it up.
It sounds
It
like a
looks
big deal. It's not. It's just
Yeah.
you're
a name and a
professional.
number.
Makes you look
Yeah.
more professional. I write with people all the time that do not have separate publishing companies, and they can still, if they're in the right PRO, collect all their money. If you're an ASCAP, you're giving away half your money.
Yeah.
It's in that black box. Nancy, tell us what black box royalties are.
Yes.
Okay, well, okay, before we do that, we're going to do some direct licensing
All right.
agreements here. Okay, so, and this is the perfect timing for this because this is May of 2024. So, and every spring, there's the National Music Publisher Association.org, NMPA.org, will allow you to sign up. If you are a songwriter who is working it and people are recording your song, there's a little bit of a bar you have to jump through, but not a very high bar. So, as a songwriter, you can join this. And the NMPA, who is headed up by David Israelite, they go around to companies like, here's the best example I got for you, Peloton is
Mhm.
using Spotify in their product. Snapchat is using your music in their product, right? And even though, they're like Spotify is using, or Peloton is using Spotify, they're using it in your product. And so the NMPA went and said, hey, you owe a different kind of royalty here to songwriters. You're using it in the product, not just
Mhm.
listening here. So as a result of this, the NMPA does these major agreements with these large companies, and they and like the Peloton and Snapchat. Like during the pandemic, I belonged, and they sent me an opt-in agreement. Do you want to go along with this agreement? And I says yes. Okay, whatever they're doing with whoever they're doing with, yes, I'm just going along with it. And I got a check for $2,800
Oh,
in the
wow.
mail because I opted in. And,
Ching.
so, and I have a small publishing company. I'm not a big publishing. So, but mostly these days, I think maybe that was for back or something, but mostly it cost me $100 to belong to the nmpa.org. And I usually make about $400 a year. I call, on opt-in agreements. And I call it money for nothing. You don't have to put your songs in. You don't have to do anything. You want
Mhm.
money for nothing. You just belong to them, and they are going to go out and they
You
know
could
where
earn
the
your money back from buying our book just from that one thing that Nancy just said. But back to Johnny's point, if you don't register as a separate publishing company for your songs, you won't be able to join the NMPA because you have to be a publisher to do that.
right,
Now, be a publisher just means you're your own publisher. So
right.
Yeah.
go set up your publishing, as Johnny said, and make sure you own your own publishing. Make sure
That's
you're collecting all that money for your song.
Right. And this money from the NMPA, it's called direct licensing for a reason. It doesn't go through the PRO. So, hey, and I'm telling you, the big publishers in town, they all belong to the
Mhm.
NMPA. And they're making a lot more money than I am because they are big to begin with. And they probably pay a higher membership fee. Okay, another organization exactly like that. And sometimes, once David Israelite and all them go out and get people educated, this other organization called Music Reports does exactly the same thing, and it doesn't cost you anything to belong. Um, TikTok went from the NMPA, and now they're over at Music Reports. So you want to belong to musicreports.org. I think that's what that is. Okay, go check out the chart and channel on page 9. Music Reports. Just sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. I make some money through them each year. And once you're in, you're in. You don't have to keep signing up, right?
Right.
They'll send you an email and you're going to opt into these voluntary licenses. I mean, but it
Mhm.
is a mechanism, and companies are happy they have a place they can go pay. Like
Mhm.
they know they owe something, but these two organizations have made it easy for them
Hey,
to.
Because
I
if
have
they
I have a
don't,
question for you,
uh,
Nancy, real quick. On those on the NMPA direct licensing stuff,
Yeah.
and what was the other company?
Music Reports Inc.
Music Reports. Is that are they do they work retroactively like the MLC does?
Like I don't think so. I think, hey, this is, and then what it seems to be doing right now is, hey, once they do a deal, maybe their first deal might have some retroactive money in it, but moving forward, then it's just, they re-up every year to, in their agreement. Maybe there's different parameters that Music Reports and NMPA use. I don't know, but it
I mean, I'm curious about if they have black box accounts.
Okay, no, they don't have black box. And so let me
So that money just gets distributed if you're not signed up and it doesn't get distributed to the
oh,
writers, it gets distributed to somebody else.
that's right.
like
It
you said,
does,
Johnny, somebody's getting that money somewhere. Tell
right.
Right.
us what that black box, tell us what that means, you two. You're talking
Okay,
about this. It's
let
jargon
me
again.
just button this up on this other thing. If the thing is, if you all of us who are not making $100,000 in publishing a year, for a smaller, a lower bracket, there's probably a pool of money that gets distributed, evenly divided between, for everyone who makes $40,000 a year as a publisher
Mhm.
and below. And then there's 40,000 to, where it goes from there, I don't know, because my company's not that big. So that money gets divided, the pool of money gets divided by everyone who's signed up. So that's how it kind of works, you see. And if you're at you're playing big, then I don't think money gets taken from me because I didn't sign up. It just gets split between the various people. If there's 1,000 people, it's split by 1,000. If there's 1,500 people, that money will in that bracket will get split between that 1,500 people. So, or companies. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think we mentioned it before, actually, but to answer or to speak to what Bill was saying, black box accounts are when it comes to the streaming services,
Okay, I'm going
Spotify.
to talk about the black box right now.
Right.
Okay, so here's the black box. What happens is if somebody puts your PRO number in wrong,
Mhm.
this is why we want you to review your PRO statement. Is a song on there that an artist came out with, but it's not showing up on your BMI or ASCAP statement? Well, maybe the number is wrong.
Mhm.
And when the number is, like your IPI number, maybe the artist put it in wrong when it went to through the music distributor, so your portion might be going to somebody else,
Mhm.
or your portion is just lost. They don't know when it's just lost, they don't know where to put it. It goes into the black box. It's called unmatched royalties.
Mhm.
And before, there was kind of like no really good place to distribute the black box royalty. But the MLC has been given charge, the Mechanical Licensing Collective has been given charge over black box royalties from at least digital streaming in the US, and they are going to have to find a way to get it to match it with the people who they think it belongs with.
Mhm.
And that is one of the things that they're going to be doing over the next year. And I'd love to talk with them about and learn more about this. And I'm sure, my assistant Ashley works at the MLC, and so I know for a fact that that's not widely known how this money is going to get distributed. All we know is there's $432 million just sitting there waiting to be dispersed, and they're trying to figure out who it belongs to.
Yeah.
So
And they can't. They're not. They're not going door knocking.
Right.
no,
Uh,
but I would
so, if you don't have that information in there, they're not going to be able to match it to you. So you need to, make that happen.
I do think there's probably a way for you to, you can go look at maybe the ISRC code or something on a song, your the ISWC code of the song in, BMI and ASCAP assign every song an ISWC code. And that ISWC code is the only one for that song. So you could, if you're not getting royalties, you might do a search on the MLC with your ISWC code for the song, and maybe you'll find the song, and then you see if you're on there or not. And if you're not on there, just tell the MLC, and
Mhm.
they'll be happy that they found the person who belongs
Yeah.
to the
Very
royalties.
cool.
So I would think that would be the most logical thing that I
But I'm
would do.
saying you just don't wait for them to come to you. That's a fool's errand because
Yeah.
while this is happening, there's I don't know how many bills are in Congress right now where they're trying to figure out how to, get access to
Right.
that money. Okay. Like they're not in any big hurry to provide transparency to distribute that money because it'll take so long before they can just make a good argument that, well, this some of that money's been in there since 2009.
Right.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to distribute it. So if they don't want it now, our job isn't to. And by the way, they're making a boatload of interest off that money while it sits there.
Right.
So there's all kinds of financial reasons why they're not going to come and find you, and you've got to be proactive.
I do want to say this one thing about the MLC, who I adore because they are so customer service friendly. In the first place, the second thing is that I have a friend, and I know the other day, and I was doing some admin for him a while back, and and an email came to me from the MLC, which was really for my friend. It said, "You didn't put your bank information in, and we have money sitting here for you. Please log in and put your."
But she had an account at MLC that
And
was
that is
Yeah,
that's
incomplete.
that's
right.
the only way.
So
Yeah.
So
And
that's
fill out a
and I'm not
W-9.
bashing MLC
That's
here.
fill out a
I'm talking about the
W-9.
people that the accounts are not like in the MLC account.
yeah,
It's like it's in Spotify, it's in Apple,
Yeah.
it's in
Right.
Amazon, and they're not in any big hurry to distribute that. MLC is doing everything they can, but again, without the information, if your name's Jim Johnson,
Good luck.
they're not going to spend any
Yeah.
time trying to figure out which Jim Johnson in the United States that goes to by what calling phone numbers.
that's right.
Like,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and,
no argument for me on that.
and actually, when you get in there and you start registering your songs with the MLC, you'll see how many of your other writers are not, you know, registered.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
eye
Mm,
opener.
right.
Now,
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
Now
move
we got to get to sync, right? Because we're running out
yeah,
of
we
time
better
here.
move
Yeah.
along because I
Uh,
got 2 more songs to write today, as you said.
on.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I'm going to move on right now, really quick, to print royalties.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
there's like DistroKid allows you to check a box, and they will put your lyrics on Lyric Find.
Oh,
Totally cool. And I look for music distributors to be offering more things like this in the future. But other than Lyric Find, one of the most regular places to go is to get your music. Making print royalties is in this company called Music Notes, musicnotes.com. But here's the thinking. Like, who knows, if you don't even have a thousand streams on Spotify, no one is going to know about your song,
right.
and so they're probably not going to care about your sheet music, right? But you get up to 5 million streams somewhere, and
Mhm.
people are going to maybe start singing your song. So
Yeah.
at a certain point, then it is time. There is a time to go register your song with musicnotes.com and let them do all the sheet music for you. So it's about timing on those kinds of things. Make sense?
Yeah, and the lyric stuff too. But there's a huge lawsuit happening right now where Spotify is getting sued for because they don't necessarily have permission to put the lyrics of all the songs that are up there. And so, lyrics also generate royalties. But why? Because they generate traffic.
Yeah.
People go to Lyric Finder to read that or whatever. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of that too. All those revenue streams. All right, Bill, take us
all
home.
right.
Sing.
Three sync streams that you can get some money from. That this, as you were joking earlier, it's another week. Bill's got another sync placement, but money in directly from my music, and sometimes big money, or $500, $1,000 for indie songwriters. That's not nothing.
Mhm.
So sync means getting your music synchronized to some video, and it's usually movies, TV, shows, video games are the biggest ones, commercials. So those are the big ones. There are some smaller ones we won't talk about, but you get an upfront license. They license your music to use in those venues, and you get an upfront fee, and it comes in pretty quickly, usually a month, 2 months, may take 9 months for some, just depends on where they are, big movie or something like that. But they also they pay you master use and your use for your composition for the recording and for the writing of that. And then depending on how it's used, you get back end royalties. I had something on a Fox TV show, and they used the recording. It was a public domain Christmas song, so we didn't get any of the writing royalties for it. Then I got back end for the next few, as that show was shown on reruns and TV all over the world, I started to get back end royalties. So I didn't just get my upfront fee. So sync is a cool thing. A lot of people in Nashville are getting into it because
Mhm.
again, the pie is getting smaller for country music, and there's only a few big artists and writers that are making a lot of money. Sync is a really cool thing to get into. There are three or four, you can get it from YouTube videos as well. And so there are three or four sources for that synchronization income when your music is synced to a video.
Cool. And it goes way more in depth into these in the book as well. And the last one, number 13, is neighboring rights royalties. What the heck is that?
That's right. Okay, so
Is your
neighboring
neighbor saying his work tape too loud and you stole a song and registered it? Is that what's going on here?
Better
uh,
build a fence.
Yeah.
okay, neighboring rights is all about money that comes through from other countries, not the United States. Okay,
Mhm.
so neighboring rights, like they're playing your song on the radio over in France.
Mhm.
Well, France has their own PRO,
Mhm.
but guess
That's
what?
him.
They they have a reciprocal agreement with BMI and ASCAP and all
Mhm.
these ones in the United States. So if your song is playing on the radio and in bars and blah 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 in a foreign country, at least the composition, the performing rights royalties are
Mhm.
going to be coming through ASCAP and BMI. So you don't have to worry about collecting that. Song Trust, who is a wonderful administrator, but they do make you feel like you'll never get any of your neighboring rights unless you use them.
Yeah.
Okay. And to collect your money from foreign sources. Your PRO composition money is coming through your PRO. What
Mhm.
they don't collect, the MLC cannot collect any foreign mechanical royalties because they're not allowed by law to have any reciprocal agreements with
Mhm.
other countries. So what you might lose is your mechanical royalties coming from foreign countries. Some of them is like if your song is playing on Spotify and some of that is going to be going to the I'm sorry, directly to the artist through through DistroKid or
Mhm.
TuneCore or whoever. But some of this, if somebody licenses your song and they're in the UK, well, there's how do you get your money here? Okay, so now I want you to think about this again. If there's only 1,000 people who have listened to your song on Spotify, probably nobody in UK cares.
Right, yeah.
But you right? So, like, but when you get to like maybe 5 million streams, you are definitely going to want somebody to be
Mhm.
collecting your mechanical royalties out there for you. And then, but if you've got 5 million streams and maybe 15 million streams and you got a lot of streaming going on, you can maybe go to a top notch, you maybe go to Warner Chapel and call them up. I want to
Mhm.
talk about an admin deal. Okay. So it depends. But at about 5 million streams, we go, okay, now you got to take this seriously. Go take care. Don't worry about it right now. But when you get there, one of your song goes like that, and you can have somebody who can administer your one song, maybe not your whole catalog, so this is what we want you to think about. Neighboring rights is foreign countries. Uh, but
Awesome.
you're getting like half of it, kind of. And there's a time in your life you want to go try to get the rest of it. So
Very cool.
hope that
So
helps.
I'm sure, dear climber, your head is spinning right now and you're like,
Yeah.
what? And you know, it's a lot, but you know what? It's the book. The book is The Songwriter's Guide to Protecting Your Songs and Collecting Your Money. I like the internal rhyme on collecting and protecting. I see what you did there. You guys must be songwriters. But
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. It breaks it down. So if this just
Where can they
hopefully
buy the book?
is just enough to make you mad, where can people find it?
Well, they can go easy. They can go to Amazon and they
Mhm.
can type it in there. They can go to nashvillecool.com/press. And that is where, you'll find some information. That you can buy it right off of there. That's our publisher for this book.
It's
The
it's
book
on an ebook edition and a print edition, and it's in all the major booksellers, Apple Books and Google Play and things like that. It comes out through that. We published it independently through BookBaby, so you can go directly on BookBaby and buy it as well.
Right.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Okay.
Ebook, $9.99. Print book, it'll have it in your little hand the rest of your life right here. Go to the chapters. This is $16.95. We are not trying to break your bank, people.
That's right.
We're trying to get this into your hands, and you can just always reference it. And one more thing, Chapter 11 has 7 documents, 7 agreements that every songwriter needs: a song split sheet, a mechanical license, and a one-stop agreement between songwriters. They're all right here. There's all examples of them, and lawyers reviewed them. And they're
Nice.
Don't forget, and don't forget, if you're local, if you're here in Nashville, you're visiting, come out and see us at it at any round that we might be playing. And I've got a book for you. So
There you go.
There you go. Well, right on, guys. Thank you so much for coming. First of all, thanks for writing the book. I think the checklist is just invaluable, and having a place you can go back and refer to this. There's a lot of moving parts of this. It's actually a little sophisticated, but it's not rocket science. It's not as complicated as the circle of fifths or chorale writing. I mean, it really isn't. So if you can master, it's not as complicated as Pro Tools. If you can master that, you can be a ninja at that. You can be a ninja at this with like far less time put into it. So I recommend buying the book and just having this for your peace of mind, guys.
I do
We'll
want to
put the
say,
links in the show notes.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nancy?
I just want to say I was pretty overwhelmed writing this book. And I was thinking, we got to find a way to serve this up to people where they can just take it piece by piece. If you never get through the first 4 royalties, you're going to be fine. Just try to get those first 4 done, which is, your performance royalties, your mechanical royalties. And then, you can reach out to any one of us because we put our emails here in this book.
Nice.
I love that. All right, guys. Well, that takes us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. Buy the book. We want you to get paid while you're winning. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.